My parents watched their golden child steal my $400 Taylor Swift ticket I'd saved 6 months for, then told me a laptop is more useful when I showed them video evidence, so I showed everyone else the footage. That was 5 years ago. They're still paying off the second mortgage they took for his legal fees while I'm teaching my daughter. She'll never need hidden cameras in her own home. My parents always liked my brother more than me since they wanted a boy. I've overheard family members say how bummed they were when I was born, but got excited when their next kid turned out to be male. They never got me the toys I begged for or wanted, but filled an entire room with boy things. They bought him a phone when he was 14, but I had to work and buy my own because they didn't trust me. Heck, they sent us to different schools so they wouldn't have to pay a higher tuition for me. Unfortunately, my brother picked up on their habits and thought that I was meant to be treated badly. He would constantly get me in trouble by telling lies about my behavior. When I was 8, he broke the TV in our house by literally throwing a baseball at it. He realized that he would get in trouble and claimed that it was I who broke it. I tried telling my parents that I was playing with a doll in my room and had never touched a baseball in my life, but they didn't believe me. I was sent to bed hungry because they said, troublemakers don't get dinner in this house. Another time when I was 14, I wanted to go to a boy's birthday party because I liked him, and I already had permission from my parents. But my brother told them that I was already dating, and the party was just a ruse to meet up with him. He went to a different school and had no clue about who the guy was, but my parents still believed him and grounded me. I was depressed when that happened because I thought the entire school would hate me for not showing up despite being invited. Thankfully, they were understanding and didn't blame me. Plus, I did start dating that guy. I began shoveling the snow off our neighbor's lawn and cutting their grass to start saving money for a phone. My parents demanded that I do the same for our lawn, and that they wouldn't pay me because it was my obligation. I listened to them because being grounded was time wasted in my bedroom, and I didn't want that. Thankfully, I was able to buy a smartphone when I turned 17. My parents never even bothered exchanging numbers with me, but at that point, I had stopped caring. They would sometimes say that a girl doesn't deserve her phone because she couldn't be trusted, which sounded ridiculous in my head. Anyway, since I bought it on my own, they couldn't do anything about it. Now, I am a really big fan of Taylor Swift, and it's my dream to go to her concert. A while back, I saw that she was going to perform near my city, so I began saving up money to buy tickets. I had gotten a new job at a high-end fast food restaurant and was being paid hourly, so I started taking on more shifts. However, it wasn't enough. The sale date for the tickets was coming up, and I hadn't saved up enough money. If it were the following week, I would get paid again and would have the required amount, but it wasn't. And if I couldn't buy them on day one, then I knew the tickets would double in price. My Ken, the same guy whose birthday party I couldn't go to, knew how much I wanted to go. He told me that he would gladly give me the remaining amount, and I was able to buy a ticket in time. I was excited to go because he also bought one for himself, so we would be there together. But I made a horrible mistake by talking about it at home. A few days later, I came home from work to find that my concert ticket was missing. I looked for it all around the house and even checked under my bed, but I just couldn't find it. So I decided to check the teddy bear camera that I had bought for my room because I knew I had put my ticket in a place where the camera could see it. To my absolute shock, my brother had just walked into my room and to Ken it like he owned it. I immediately confronted him about it, and of course, he denied doing it, but I showed him the evidence on my phone. He tried snatching it from my hand so he could delete the footage, but I have faster reflexes and avoided it. I told him that he needed to give it back to me or I would report him. He just began laughing and said, "Are you crazy? I already sold it because Taylor Swift concert tickets are selling for a fortune right now." Then he pointed to his new laptop and said that he spent the money he got on that, so there was nothing I could do. I went running to my parents and told them about it, but they dismissed it like it was nothing. If your brother took it, then what's the problem? A laptop is much more useful than a concert ticket anyway, so technically he prevented you from wasting your money. I knew my family always treated me poorly, but never thought they would go this far. They knew how much I liked Taylor Swift and how much this meant to me, but none of them cared. Since I had it on video, I could probably report my Ken to the police, and he would get arrested, but then my parents would just bail him out, and it would end there. In my head, I had just wasted the money my Ken gave me and was feeling terrible about doing that to him, so I decided that I would make my brother pay. I waited for when he went out with his friends and sneaked into his room. I took his laptop along with the box and charger, since it was brand new, and in case he also had a camera, I did a pose with a peace sign. I immediately googled the price, and it was unsurprisingly more than my single ticket cost. I put it up on eBay and lowballed it by $150, so I got an offer on literally the same day. Within hours, his new laptop was gone, and I was holding the money in my hand. I went over to my Ken's house and explained the situation. He said he didn't care about the money and was just sad about me not getting the chance, so he gave me his ticket. I thanked him a lot and also told him to keep all of the money as well as the ticket for now because my brother might try to take it by force. When I got home, my brother was already yelling and telling my parents that I had stolen his laptop. He had no evidence, but of course, since they believed him and told me to give it back immediately. I denied the accusation, but they called me a thief and threatened to call the police. So I said, okay, let's call the police. I have evidence of my brother stealing, so he's the first one that they'll arrest. How do you think that arrest will look on his upcoming college applications? My parents went completely silent. They just stood there staring at me like I'd grown a second head. My brother's face turned red, then white, then back to red again. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. I pulled out my phone and showed them the video footage. There was my brother, clear as day, walking into my room and taking my ticket from my desk drawer. The timestamp showed it was during a time I was at work. He even held it up to examine it before shoving it in his pocket. "This is what the police will see," I said, keeping my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. Along with the eBay listing where he sold it, I screenshot everything. My mother finally found her voice. "You're being ridiculous over a concert ticket." "No," I corrected her. "I'm being reasonable about that. He stole from me, sold my property, and used the money for himself. That's a crime." My father stepped forward, trying to use his intimidating stance that usually made me back down. "Give your brother his laptop back right now, young lady." "I don't have it," I said truthfully. "It's already sold and shipped. The money is gone too." My brother lunged at me, but I stepped back quickly. Years of avoiding his attempts to grab my phone had given me good reflexes. "Where's my laptop?" he screamed. "Where's my ticket?" I shot back. "I told you I already spent that money, and I already spent yours." My parents looked between us, and for the first time in my life, I saw uncertainty in their eyes. They couldn't just punish me and move on like usual. This time I had evidence. This time there would be consequences they couldn't control. "We're calling the police," my mother declared, reaching for her phone. "Go ahead," I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. dumbfounded. Let me know how that goes when they see the video of him stealing from me first. Oh, and I should mention, I've already backed up the footage in 3 different places, so destroying my phone won't help. My brother grabbed my mother's arm. No, don't call them. She looked at him in confusion. Why not? She stole your laptop. Because he glanced at me, then back at our parents. Because she's right. They'll see the video. So what? My father said. It's just a stupid concert ticket. It's theft, I repeated. And he's applying to colleges this year. Do you really want arrested for theft on his record? Even if you bail him out, it'll still show up. Good luck explaining that to admissions committees. The room fell silent again. My brother sank onto the couch, putting his head in his hands. My parents exchanged worried looks. This is blackmail, my mother hissed at me. No, this is consequences, I replied. Something you've never taught him about. My father's face turned purple. You ungrateful little ungrateful? I cut him off. Years of suppressed anger finally bubbling over. For what? For being treated like a second-class citizen in my own home? For having to work for everything while he gets handed whatever he wants? For being called a liar every time he decides to frame me for something? We've given you a roof over your head, my mother shouted. The bare minimum required by law, I pointed out. Congratulations on not committing child neglect. My brother suddenly stood up. This is all your fault. If you hadn't been showing off about your stupid concert, my fault? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You stole from me, but it's my fault for having something worth stealing? He took a step toward me, fists clenched. I held up my phone. Go ahead, hit me. I'll add assault to the police report. My father grabbed my brother's shoulder, pulling him back. Not to protect me, I noticed, but to protect him from consequences. What do you want? My mother asked through gritted teeth. I wanted to go to a concert with my boyfriend, I said simply. That's all. I worked extra shifts, saved money, and bought a ticket. That's what I wanted. But your son decided he deserved my property more than I did. We'll buy you another ticket, my father offered. I shook my head. They're sold out. Have been for weeks. The only ones available are from scalpers charging 3 times the original price. Then we'll pay for that, he said, though he looked like the words physically hurt him. With what money? The laptop cost more than a regular ticket. Are you going to spend even more just to fix his theft? My parents looked at each other again. I could see them doing the math in their heads. The cost of a scalped ticket, plus buying my brother a new laptop, plus the potential cost if I did go to the police. Besides, I added, Ken already gave me his ticket, so I'm going to the concert anyway. Then give the money back, my brother demanded. What money? I told you, it's gone. Ken has it now, and unlike you, I'm not a thief. I'm not taking it back from him. My mother's eyes narrowed. You gave the money to your boyfriend? Yes, the same boyfriend who helped me buy the ticket in the first place. The one who's shown me more kindness and support than my own family ever has. We forbid you from seeing him, my father announced. I actually laughed at that. With what authority? I'm 19, I have a job, I bought my own phone, and I pay for my own things. You can't forbid me from anything. Then you can find somewhere else to live, he threatened. I'd been expecting this. They always went nuclear when they couldn't control me. Fine. Ken's parents already said I could stay with them if I ever needed to. They've seen how you treat me. My parents' faces went pale. The threat of me leaving meant they'd lose their live-in maid who did chores for free. It also meant people would ask questions about why their daughter moved out. You wouldn't dare, my mother said. Try me, I replied. I've got nothing left to lose here. You've made it clear since birth that I'm unwanted. At least now I have somewhere to go where I'm actually valued. My brother, realizing his parents might actually cave to keep me around to do housework, jumped back in. This is insane. She stole my laptop. Are you really going to let her get away with this? The same way you let him get away with stealing my ticket? I asked my parents. The same way you let him get away with breaking the TV when we were kids? The same way you let him get away with lying about me for years? Those were different, my mother started. How? I interrupted. Because he's the son you wanted and I'm the daughter you didn't? At least be honest about it. The silence that followed was deafening. For once, they couldn't deny it. The truth hung in the air like smoke. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Ken asking if I was okay. Just seeing his name on my screen gave me strength. Here's what's going to happen, I said, taking control of the conversation. We're all going to pretend this never happened. You're not calling the police, and neither am I. Brother dear learned an expensive lesson about taking things that don't belong to him. I'm going to the concert with Ken, and if anyone touches anything in my room again, I'll file a police report immediately. You can't just, my brother started. Yes, I can. I cut him off, because for the first time in my life, I have evidence. I have proof of how you really are, and I'm not afraid to use it. I turned to leave the room, but my mother's voice stopped me. We're not done discussing this. Yes, we are, I said without turning around. Unless you want to discuss it with the police? No one answered. I went to my room and locked the door behind me. My hands were shaking as I texted Ken back, letting him know I was okay and that I'd be over soon. I grabbed a bag and started packing some essentials. Whether I was moving out tonight or not, I wanted to be prepared. As I packed, I could hear my family arguing in the living room. My brother was demanding they do something, while my parents were trying to figure out damage control. For once, I wasn't the problem they were trying to solve. He was. I picked up the teddy bear camera and smiled at it. Best investment I'd ever made. I'd bought it after the 100th time my brother had gone through my things, and my parents had called me paranoid. Turns out I wasn't paranoid enough. My phone rang. It was Ken. Hey, I answered, keeping my voice low. Are you okay? Your text sounded upset. I'm actually great, I said, and realized I meant it. Can I come over? I'll explain everything. Of course. Do you need me to pick you up? No, I'll drive. But Ken, thank you for everything. Always, he said simply. After we hung up, I finished packing my bag. As I was zipping it up, there was a knock on my door. Go away, I called out. It's me. My brother's voice came through. Look, can we talk? Number, I'll give you the money back. I almost laughed. You already spent it on a laptop that's now gone. You have no money to give. I'll pay you back when I get a job. Like you paid me back for the TV you broke? Or the times you got me grounded for things you did? Pass. I heard him slam his fist against the door. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I said calmly. And if you damage my door, I'm adding property destruction to the police report. His footsteps stomped away. I grabbed my bag and headed out. My parents were waiting in the hallway. Where are you going? My father demanded. Out. We didn't give you permission. I didn't ask for it, I said, pushing past them. My mother grabbed my arm. If you leave now, don't bother coming back tonight. I looked her straight in the eye. Okay, she blinked, clearly not expecting that response. Her grip loosened, and I pulled away. As I walked to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed with another text from Ken, sending heart emojis and saying he was making popcorn for when I got there. I sat in my car for a moment, looking back at the house I'd grown up in, the house where I'd been unwanted, unloved, and unprotected. Then I looked at my phone, at the messages from someone who actually cared about me. I started the car and drove away. For the first time in my life, I'd stood up to them. I'd won. And even if I hadn't gotten my original ticket back, I'd gotten something better. I'd gotten my self-respect back. As I pulled into Ken's driveway, I saw him waiting at the door with a huge smile. His parents were behind him, also smiling and waving. This was what what family was supposed to look like. So, Ken said as I got out of the car, "Want to tell me how you became a total badass?" I laughed, genuinely laughed, for the first time in days. "It's a long story. Good thing we have all night," he said, taking my bag. "And hey, we still have that concert to look forward to." As we walked inside, his mom immediately hugged me. "You're always welcome here, sweetie. Always." I blinked back tears. After 19 years, I finally knew what it felt like to be wanted somewhere. And as for my family, they were about to learn what life was like without their personal servant. My brother was about to discover that actions have consequences. And my parents were about to realize that you can't treat someone like garbage their entire life and expect them to stick around. I'd won this round, and I had the evidence to win any future rounds too. The Taylor Swift concert was in 2 weeks. I'd be there, dancing next to the boy who'd shown me what real love looked like. And somewhere across town, my brother would be sitting at home, laptopless and ticketless, finally experiencing what it felt like to lose something he wanted. Karma really was a bitch, and apparently so was I. I couldn't wait for the concert. The next morning brought a temporary peace that I knew wouldn't last. Ken's parents had set up a guest room for me, and waking up in a house where people actually smiled at breakfast felt surreal. His mother, Mrs. Cole, made pancakes shaped like hearts, something my own mother had never done even when I was little. Ken drove me to work that afternoon, squeezing my hand before I got out. The normalcy of it all made yesterday's confrontation feel like a bad dream, but the 17 missed calls from my parents reminded me it was very real. My shift at the restaurant passed without incident until about 3 hours in. My coworker Nick nudged me during a brief lull between orders. She pointed toward the dining area where my brother sat with 3 of his friends, all of them watching me with smirks on their faces. My stomach dropped, but I kept working. I couldn't afford to lose this job, especially now. They ordered food, naturally choosing the most complicated items on the menu during our busiest time. Every few minutes, one of them would call out complaints. The fries were too cold, the burger wasn't right, the shake was too thick. My manager, Mr. McNicholas, started giving me concerned looks as I ran back and forth trying to fix their manufactured problems. When my brother accidentally knocked over his full soda, spreading it across the floor and onto other customers' shoes, Mr. McNicholas had enough. He walked over to their table himself while I grabbed the mop. I could hear my brother's voice, pitched just loud enough for me to catch his words. "We're just trying to have a meal here, but the service has been terrible. My sister works here, actually. I hate to say it, but she's probably the worst employee you have. Our whole family knows she has issues with authority and honesty." My hands tightened on the mop handle as I cleaned up his mess. Mr. McNicholas glanced between us, and I saw the moment doubt crept into his expression. My brother had that gift. He could sound so reasonable, so concerned, while planting seeds of destruction. After they finally left, leaving no tip and more accidental spills, Mr. McNicholas called me into his office. My heart pounded as I sat down across from him. "Your brother seems worried about you," he began carefully. "My brother is trying to get me fired," I said flatly. "We had a family dispute, and this is his retaliation." Mr. McNicholas studied me for a long moment. "I've never had any issues with your work before today, but I can't have family drama affecting my restaurant. It won't happen again, I promised, though we both knew I couldn't control what my brother might do. "See that it doesn't," he said, dismissing me. I finished my shift with shaking hands, constantly checking over my shoulder. When Ken picked me up, I told him everything. His jaw tightened with each detail. "He's trying to isolate you," Ken said. "Take away your job, your independence." I know. I slumped in the passenger seat. And the worst part is, it might work. Mr. F. McNicholas believed him, at least a little. Ken drove in silence for a moment before speaking. "My parents want to talk to you tonight about maybe making the living arrangement more permanent, at least until you're stable." Hope loomed in my chest, but it was quickly crushed by my phone ringing. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello? Is this the girl who stole from her own family?" The voice was unfamiliar, male, and aggressive. "Your brother told us all about you. What kind of person steals from their own blood?" I hung up immediately, but another call came through seconds later. Different number, same harassment. By the 5th call, I turned my phone off entirely. "He's giving out my number," I said, feeling sick. "He's actually giving strangers my phone number." Ken pulled into a parking lot and turned to face me. "We need to document everything. Every call, every incident at work, everything." He was right, but exhaustion weighed on me. It had been less than 24 hours since I'd left home, and my brother was already launching a campaign to destroy my life. That evening, Ken's parents sat us down in their living room. Mrs. Cole had made tea, and Mr. Cole wore his reading glasses, making him look like the college professor he was. "We've been discussing your situation," Mrs. Cole began gently, "and we want you to know you're welcome here as long as you need. But," Mr. Cole added, "we need to know the full story. Your parents called us today." My blood ran cold. "What did they say?" "That you're a troubled young woman who stole from your brother and has a history of lying and manipulation," Mr. Cole said evenly. "They suggested we check our valuables." Rage and hurt battled in my chest. Ken's hand found mine, grounding me. "I have proof," I said quietly. "Video evidence of what really happened." I showed them the footage on my phone, explaining the context. Their expressions shifted from neutral to shocked to angry on my behalf. When I finished, Mrs. Cole pulled me into a hug. "No child should have to install cameras to protect themselves in their own home," she said fiercely. Mr. Cole removed his glasses, cleaning them thoughtfully. "Your parents also mentioned they'd be willing to take legal action if you don't return what you stole." "Let them," I said, exhausted. "I have evidence. They have nothing but years of enabling their son." We spent the next hour creating a plan. I would continue working, save money, and look for a small apartment. Ken's parents would support me through the transition. It felt like having parents for the first time in my life. The peace lasted exactly 2 days. I was walking to my car after work when I found all 4 tires slashed. The security camera conveniently faced the other direction, and there were no witnesses. I knew who did it, but knowing and proving were different things. The tow truck driver who came to help mentioned he'd gotten 3 calls that week for the same thing. "Usually it's angry exes," he said conversationally. "You got someone mad at you?" "My brother," I admitted. He whistled low. "Family disputes are the worst. My brother once sugar-bombed my gas tank over a girl. Cost me the whole engine. The tire replacement ate through most of my savings. Ken offered to help, but I refused. I'd already taken too much from him and his family. That night, my social media account started getting flooded with messages. My brother had posted my username in some kind of online forum, claiming I was a thief who targeted family members. The messages ranged from calling me names to detailed threats. I screenshotted everything before deactivating my accounts. "This is harassment," Ken said, reading through the messages with growing anger. "We should go to the police." "With what proof it's him?" I asked tiredly. "He's too smart to use his own accounts. It's all anonymous." The next morning, Ken's parents received an official-looking letter. It was from my parents' lawyer, apparently Apparently they had one now, demanding the return of stolen property, or they would pursue criminal charges. Mr. Cole read through it carefully. This is intimidation tactics, he concluded. They're hoping to scare you into compliance. Is it working? I asked weakly. No, all three Coles said in unison. Mr. Cole made some calls and found me a lawyer friend who would consult pro bono. Her name was Alexandra, but she insisted I call her Alex. She reviewed my evidence and the letter with sharp eyes. They're bluffing, she concluded. No prosecutor would take this case. You have video evidence of the initial theft, and you're both adults. This is a civil matter at best, and they know it. So why the letter? Intimidation. They're hoping you'll cave. She leaned forward. Don't. I didn't cave, but the pressure continued mounting. My brother showed up at my work again, this time alone. He sat in my section and ordered coffee, making me serve him. When I brought it over, he smiled pleasantly. How's the new living situation? He asked conversationally. Ken's parents seem nice. Be a shame if they knew about your stealing problem. They know everything, I said evenly. His smile faltered slightly. Do they know about the time you stole money from Mom's purse? Or when you took Dad's watch? That was you, I said through gritted teeth. Both times. Was it? He sipped his coffee thoughtfully. Funny how memories differ. I remember you being quite the little thief growing up. In fact, I kept a journal documenting all your incidents. Amazing how detailed childhood memories can be when written down. My blood ran cold. He was creating false evidence, manufacturing a history that never existed. No one will believe that, I said, won't they? He left cash on the table, exact change, no tip, and stood. By the way, how are the new tires? Shame about the old ones. City's getting dangerous. I watched him leave, my hands shaking. When I turned around, Mr. McNicholas was watching from the kitchen doorway. How much had he heard? How much had he believed? That night, I found Ken in his room, laptop open, frowning at the screen. What's wrong? I asked. He turned the laptop toward me. Someone had created a website with my full name in the URL. The site was full of testimonials from former friends and co-workers, describing my supposed history of theft and manipulation. The stories were detailed, believable, and completely fabricated. This comes up when you Google your name now, Ken said quietly. I sank onto his bed, feeling defeated. He's destroying my life systematically. We'll fight back, Ken said firmly. We'll get the site taken down. But we both knew the damage was already done. Anyone who searched my name, employers, landlords, anyone, would see this first. The next blow came from an unexpected direction. Ken's ex-girlfriend, Loss, reached out to him. She said my brother had contacted her, claiming I was manipulating Ken and stealing from his family. He'd offered her proof if she wanted to warn Ken about my true nature. She didn't believe him, Ken assured me, but the fact that he found her, that he's reaching out to people in my life, the implications hung heavy between us. My brother wasn't just targeting me anymore. He was going after anyone who supported me. That weekend, Ken's parents sat us down again. They looked troubled, and my heart sank. We've been getting calls, Mrs. Cole said gently. From your parents, your brother, even some of your extended family members. They're all saying the same things. That I'm a thief and a liar, I said flatly. That you have a history of mental health issues, Mr. Cole corrected. That you've been in and out of treatment programs. That you manipulate people, particularly young men, for money and support. The lies were getting more elaborate, more damaging. My brother had learned well from our parents. If you couldn't win with truth, bury your opponent in lies. We don't believe them, Mrs. Cole said quickly, seeing my expression. But we need to ask, is there any truth to any of it? Any kernel they're twisting? No, I said, then hesitated. I mean, I saw a school counselor when I was 14, after my brother got me grounded from that party. I was showing signs of depression, but that's it. Ken's parents exchanged glances. That's what they're using, Mr. Cole said. That counselor visit. They're spinning it into a whole narrative of instability. I wanted to scream. One counselor visit, sought because of their treatment, was now being weaponized against me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was a photo of Ken's car in the restaurant parking lot where he'd dropped me off for work. The message read, nice boyfriend. Hope nothing happens to his ride. I showed Ken immediately. His face darkened. That's it. We're going to the police. But when we tried to file a report, the officer looked skeptical. Family disputes are tricky, he said, without concrete proof of who's sending these messages. I know who it is, I insisted. Knowing and proving are different things, he said, echoing my own earlier thoughts. We left the station feeling more helpless than before. My brother had learned to be untraceable, to leave just enough doubt. The harassment escalated. I started finding notes on my car windshield with messages like, thieves get what they deserve, and family remembers. Ken started walking me to and from work, but we both knew he couldn't protect me every moment. One evening, I was closing at the restaurant when the power went out. Emergency lights kicked in, casting eerie shadows. I was alone in the back, counting the till, when I heard footsteps. Hello? I called out. No answer, but the footsteps got closer. My heart pounded as I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911. Then the lights flashed back on, and my brother stood 10 feet away, smiling. Jumpy? He asked innocently. I just came to pick up my to-go order. We're closed, I managed. Are you? He glanced around the empty restaurant. Seems like you're still here, alone. That's not very safe. Leave, I said, trying to sound firm despite my shaking voice. Public establishment, he said cheerfully. I have every right to be here until you officially close, which is in 10 minutes? Those were the longest 10 minutes of my life. He didn't do anything overtly threatening, just stood there, watching me finish closing duties. When I finally locked up and headed to my car, he followed at a distance. You know, he called out, this all could have been avoided. All you had to do was know your place. I spun around. My place? As your punching bag? As the family scapegoat? As someone who doesn't have evidence, he said simply. You think you're so smart with your little camera, but I've been playing this game longer than you, and I always win. He got in his car and drove away, leaving me shaking in the parking lot. When Ken picked me up, I broke down completely, sobbing out the whole encounter. We need to be smarter, Ken said, holding me. He's escalating because he's frustrated. The concert is next week. He's running out of time to break you. He was right. The Taylor Swift concert was in 5 days, and my brother's harassment had intensified accordingly. He couldn't stand that I might actually get something I wanted, something he couldn't take away. The next day at work, I found out just how far he was willing to go. Mr. McNicholas called me into his office, and this time, he wasn't alone. A woman in a suit sat beside him, holding a folder. This is Ms. Alexandra from HR, he said uncomfortably. We've received some concerning complaints. My stomach dropped as Ms. Alexandra opened her folder. 3 separate customers have filed complaints alleging you tampered with their food. They provided remarkably similar accounts of feeling ill after eating meals you prepared. That's impossible, I said. I don't even prepare the food. I'm a server. They claim they saw you add something to their plates before serving, she continued. We've also received an anonymous tip that you've been been stealing from the register. Check the cameras, I said desperately. They'll show I didn't do any of that. Mr. McNicholas shifted uncomfortably. The camera system malfunctioned this week. We have no footage from the past 4 days. Of course it did. My brother had thought of everything. I'm afraid we have to suspend you pending investigation, Miss Alexandra said, not unkindly. It's protocol when we receive multiple complaints of this nature. I cleaned out my locker in a daze. My brother had won this round. Without my job, I couldn't save for an apartment. I couldn't contribute to Ken's family. I was exactly where he wanted me, dependent and desperate. When I got home, Ken's home, I reminded myself, I found his parents in serious discussion. They looked up as I entered, and their expressions told me everything. More calls? I asked weakly. Your parents' lawyer sent another letter, Mr. Ricole said. They're threatening to sue us for harboring stolen property and enabling theft. That's ridiculous, I said. Of course it is, Mrs. Cole agreed, but fighting it would cost money. Money we don't have endless supplies of. The unspoken question hung in the air. How long could they afford to support me against this onslaught? I'll leave, I said quietly. I won't let them hurt you because of me. Absolutely not, Ken said from the doorway. I hadn't heard him come in. We're not letting them win. But what choice did we have? My brother had systematically destroyed my job, my reputation, and now was targeting the only people who'd shown me kindness. The concert was in 3 days, and I wondered if I'd even make it that far. That night, unable to sleep, I sat in Ken's backyard and called the one person I'd hoped never to contact again. My grandmother answered on the 3rd ring. I wondered when you'd call, she said, her voice neutral. Your parents have been telling quite the story. None of it's true, I said. I know. Those 2 words broke something in me. You know, I've watched how they treat you for 19 years, she said simply. I've seen your brother's lies believed while your truths were dismissed. I know exactly what's happening. Then why didn't you ever help? The question came out more accusatory than I intended. She sighed. Because your parents made it clear that interference would mean cut contact. I thought being in your life, even peripherally, was better than nothing. I was wrong. We talked for an hour. She told me things I'd never known. How my parents had rewritten history even with their own families. How my brother's behavior had concerned others who were too afraid to speak up. How the family dynamic had been toxic long before I was born. What do I do? I asked finally. You survive, she said firmly. You go to that concert. You live your life, and you document everything. Because one day, their house of cards will fall. Her words gave me strength, but they didn't solve my immediate problems. I was jobless, living on charity, and facing an escalating campaign of harassment with a ticking clock counting down to the concert. The next morning, Ken woke me early. Get dressed, he said urgently. Something's happened. I threw on clothes and followed him downstairs where his parents were on the phone, looking grim. Mr. Cole hung up and turned to us. That was the police, he said. Someone reported this address as a substance den. They're coming to search the house. My brother had made his next move. Even though we had nothing to hide, the disruption, the embarrassment, the implication, it was all calculated to make Ken's parents regret taking me in. We spent the morning dealing with police, who found nothing because there was nothing to find. But the neighbors watched, whispered, drew their own conclusions. The damage was done. I'm so sorry, I told Ken's parents repeatedly. This isn't your fault, Mrs. Nicole said firmly, but I could see the stress wearing on her. That afternoon, while Ken was at class and his parents at work, I sat alone in the house, trying to figure out my next move. The concert was in 2 days. I just had to make it 2 more days. My phone rang. Ken's number. I answered immediately. Don't come to campus, he said urgently. Your brother's here with a group of guys. They're waiting by my car. Call security, I said. I did. But they're not doing anything illegal, just standing there, menacingly. I felt trapped. I couldn't go help Ken without walking into whatever trap my brother had set, but I couldn't leave Ken to face them alone. I'm calling the police, I decided. And saying what? My girlfriend's brother is standing near my car? He was right. My brother had learned to toe the line perfectly, always threatening, but never quite crossing into actionable territory. Ken ended up getting a security escort to his car, but the message was clear. My brother could reach him anywhere, anytime. The people protecting me weren't safe from his campaign. That evening, we held a war council. Ken, his parents, and I sat around their dining table, trying to find a solution. Maybe I should just give him the money back, I said defeatedly. You don't have it, Ken pointed out. And even if you did, this isn't about money anymore. It's about control. He was right. My brother couldn't stand that I'd fought back, that I'd won even a small victory. This was about putting me back in my place, and he wouldn't stop until I was broken. The concert is in 2 days, Mrs. Nicole said thoughtfully. After that, his main goal is thwarted. Maybe he'll back off. But we all knew better. This had spiraled beyond the concert. It was about power, about maintaining the family dynamic where I was always wrong and he was always right. My phone buzzed with another unknown number. This time I didn't even check it, but Ken grabbed it, his face darkening as he read. What? I asked. He showed me the screen. It was a photo of me at work, taken from outside the restaurant window. The message read, shame about the job. Wonder what else you'll lose. That's when something in me snapped. Not into despair, but into determination. My brother thought he'd won by taking my job, by threatening my support system. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd taught me how to fight dirty. I need to use your laptop, I told Ken. For the next hour, I did something I'd never thought myself capable of. I created my own website, but instead of lies, I posted truth. Every incident from our childhood, every lie he'd told, every time my parents had enabled him. And at the center of it all, I embedded the video of him stealing my ticket. Are you sure about this? Ken asked, reading over my shoulder. He wanted to play the public opinion game. I said, let's play. I shared the link strategically, not wildly or vindictively, but sent it to specific family members who'd been fed his version of events. I sent it to the HR department at my job with a note explaining the harassment campaign. I sent it to my grandmother, who I knew would share it with others. Then I waited. The response was immediate. My phone exploded with calls and texts. Some family members were appalled at my airing dirty laundry. Others were shocked by the video evidence, having believed my brother's version of events for years. My parents called Ken's parents, threatening legal action for defamation. Alex, the lawyer, laughed when we told her. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation, she said. And you have video evidence? Let them try. But the real victory came from an unexpected source. One of my cousins reached out saying she'd always suspected my brother's stories were lies. She shared her own experiences of his manipulation when we were younger, incidents I'd never known about. Her corroboration led to others coming forward with their own stories. My brother's carefully constructed narrative was crumbling. The night before the concert, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow was the culmination of everything, the event that had started this war. Ken found me on the back porch at 3 a.m., wrapped in a blanket and staring at the stars. Can't sleep either? He asked, sitting beside me. I'm scared, I admitted. What if he shows up at the concert? What if he's planned something? Then we'll handle it, Ken said simply. Together. Your parents must hate me. me, I said. All this drama, the police, the threats, they're angry, Ken corrected. But not at you. At your family for putting you through this. Mom especially. She keeps muttering about what kind of parents treat their child this way. We sat in comfortable silence until the sun began to rise. In 12 hours, we'd be at the concert. Whether my brother had more plans or not, I'd made it this far. I'd survived his campaign, kept my evidence, maintained my support system despite his best efforts. You know what the best part is? Ken said suddenly. What? He spent all this energy trying to break you, and you're still going to the concert. He failed. I smiled for the first time in days. Ken was right. Despite everything, the job loss, the harassment, the threats, the lies, I was still going. My brother had thrown everything at me, and I was still standing. But I knew better than to declare victory too early. The concert was still hours away, and my brother had proven he always had another move. The question was, what would his final play be? As I got ready that morning, I checked my phone one last time. A text from an unknown number, but this time the message made me smile. Saw your website, always knew you were telling the truth. Enjoy Taylor Swift. You deserve it. Aunt Sarah. My brother's web of lies had held for 19 years, but armed with evidence and the truth, I'd finally broken free. Tonight, I'd dance at a Taylor Swift concert with a boy who'd stood by me through hell. And somewhere across town, my brother would have to live with the fact that for once, he'd lost. The war wasn't over. But this battle was mine. The concert day arrived with an ominous text at 6 a.m. Unknown number again, but this time with a photo of the venue's parking lot. See you there, it read. Ken found me staring at my phone in the kitchen. Without a word, he took it from my hands and deleted the message. He's trying to psych you out. Don't let him. Mrs. Cole entered with a determined expression. Change of plans. We're all going to the concert. I started to protest about the cost, but Mr. Cole cut me off. Already handled. Consider it an early birthday present. My throat tightened. My birthday wasn't for months, and we all knew it. They were creating a protective barrier around me, refusing to let my brother isolate me even at the concert. We spent the morning preparing like it was a military operation. Ken's parents would drive separately, staying nearby in case we needed quick extraction. Alex, the lawyer, had drafted a cease and desist letter that I carried in my purse. Ken had screenshots of every threat saved in multiple clouds. 3 hours before we needed to leave, my grandmother called. I thought you should know. Your parents are planning something. Your cousin overheard them on the phone with your brother. Be careful. The warning should have terrified me, but instead, I felt oddly calm. Let them come. I had backup now. Ken and I arrived at the venue early, his parents parking one lot over. The energy of thousands of Taylor Swift fans buzzed around us, but I kept scanning faces, looking for my brother. We made it through security without incident. Found our seats, decent ones, considering Ken had bought them last minute. For a moment, surrounded by excited fans and with Ken's hand in mine, I almost forgot about the war raging in my life. Then I saw him, my brother, 5 rows down, turning to scan the crowd. Our eyes met, and he smiled that predator's smile I knew so well. But he wasn't alone. My parents flanked him, and they'd brought reinforcements. 2 security guards in venue uniforms who looked far too interested in our section. Don't react, Ken whispered, following my gaze. They want you to make a scene. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Nice seats. Would be a shame if security got an anonymous tip about you smuggling something in. My blood ran cold. They were going to try to get me ejected from the venue. Create enough disruption that security would remove me rather than investigate properly. I quickly texted Ken's parents, updating them. Mrs. Cole responded immediately. Already on it. Within minutes, she appeared with an actual venue manager, a woman with a radio and an air of authority. Mrs. Cole was explaining something earnestly, gesturing toward where my family sat. The manager's expression shifted from skeptical to concerned as Mrs. Cole showed her something on her phone, probably the compilation of threats I'd been receiving. My brother noticed the interaction. His smile faltered as the manager spoke into her radio, and suddenly the 2 security guards with my family were being approached by real security. There was a brief, heated discussion. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw my father's face redden, my mother's hands gesturing wildly. The fake security guards produced IDs that the real security examined closely. Then they were being escorted out, all of them. My parents, my brother, and their hired help marched up the aisle as thousands of fans watched curiously. My brother managed one last look back, his face twisted with rage. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, I just watched him leave. How? I asked Ken, stunned. He grinned. Mom recognized one of the security guards from the police station. He's a private investigator. Turns out venues really don't like it when people impersonate their staff. The lights dimmed, and Taylor Swift took the stage. For the next 3 hours, I forgot about my family entirely. I sang every word, danced until my feet hurt, and cried during All Too Well. Ken held me during the acoustic set, and I felt 19 years of pain and rejection slowly loosening its grip. During Shake It Off, my phone lit up with notifications. I ignored them until intermission, then checked to find my social media. The new accounts I'd made, flooded with messages. My website had gone viral within our extended family network. Cousins, aunts, uncles, family friends, everyone was sharing their own stories about my brother's lies and my parents' favoritism. The narrative my family had carefully constructed over 2 decades was crumbling in real time. One message stood out, from my father's sister. I'm sorry we didn't intervene sooner. We all saw it, but we're too cowardly to speak up. You deserved better. Ken read over my shoulder. You did it. You broke their hold. But I knew better than to think it was over. Narcissists didn't just accept defeat. They regrouped, planned, struck back harder. Sure enough, as we left the venue, Ken's dad called. Don't go home tonight. Your parents showed up here with a locksmith claiming you stole their house key. The neighbors called the police. We spent that night in a hotel, Ken's parents in the adjoining room. I should have been terrified, but instead, I felt free. They were scrambling, desperate, making mistakes. The locksmith had refused to change the locks without proof of ownership. The police had taken notes about the harassment. The next morning brought a new development. Mr. McNicholas called, his voice apologetic. I've reviewed the security footage from the week before it supposedly malfunctioned. Your brother was seen near the electrical room. We also found the complaints against you were all filed from the same IP address. Would you like your job back? I thanked him but declined. That job was part of my old life, the one where I scraped and saved and accepted crumbs. Ken's parents had already connected me with a friend who needed an office assistant. Better pay, regular hours, no risk of my brother causing scenes in front of customers. 3 days after the concert, the cease and desist letter was delivered to my parents' house. Alex had crafted it beautifully. A formal demand to stop all contact, harassment, and defamation, with a detailed list of documented incidents attached. My parents responded by showing up at Ken's house while his parents were at work. Ken and I watched through the window as they pounded on the door, demanding I come out and stop this nonsense. I called the police myself this time, calmly reported trespassers who'd been legally notified to cease contact, gave the case number from previous incidents, mentioned the cease and desist. The officers who arrived were the same ones who'd searched the house after the false substance den report. They recognized the address, remembered the situation. My parents' attempts to spin the story fell flat. "She's our daughter," my mother cried as they were being warned about trespassing. "Then why are you treating her like an enemy?" one officer asked quietly. They left without arrests, but with a formal warning. Another documented incident. Another piece of evidence in my growing file. My brother tried one last play. He reached out to my employer before I'd even started, spinning his tales of theft and mental instability. But Ken's parents had warned their friend, and she'd Googled me, found my website, read the truth. On my first day of work, she pulled me aside. "I had a brother like yours," she said simply. "I understand. You're safe here." 2 weeks passed, then a month. The harassment slowed, then stopped. Not because my family had accepted defeat, but because they'd finally faced consequences. The extended family had chosen sides, and for once, it wasn't automatically theirs. Their reputation in the community was tarnished. My brother's college applications now had to explain a police record of trespassing and harassment. I started therapy with someone who specialized in family trauma. Ken came to some sessions, learning how to support me without enabling my learned helplessness. His parents connected me with resources for financial literacy, helping me build the skills my parents had deliberately kept from me. 6 months later, I ran into my mother at a grocery store. She looked older, diminished. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the produce section. She opened her mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to attack. I'll never know because I simply turned and walked away. I had nothing to say to her. A year after the concert, I got a text from an unknown number. My finger hovered over the delete button until I read it. "This is your brother. I'm sorry." I stared at those 4 words for a long time. Sorry for what? For stealing my ticket? For years of lies? For trying to destroy my life when I finally stood up to him? I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, weren't meant to be rebuilt. Ken proposed the following Christmas in front of his parents' tree, with a ring he'd saved for months to buy. His parents cried. I cried. It was the family Christmas I'd always dreamed of, but never thought I'd have. We married 2 years later in a small ceremony. I walked myself down the aisle, no longer needing or wanting my father's approval. My grandmother sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face. The family members who'd finally stood up for me filled our side of the venue. My parents weren't invited. Neither was my brother. I heard through family gossip that my brother had struggled in college, his entitlement finally meeting consequences. My parents had mortgaged their house to pay for his legal troubles after he'd tried his manipulation tactics on the wrong person. They were reaping what they'd sown. Ken and I built our life carefully, intentionally. We both worked, both contributed, both made decisions together. When conflicts arose, we talked them through instead of keeping score or playing games. 5 years after that Taylor Swift concert, I gave birth to our daughter. As I held her, Ken beside me, his parents cooing over their granddaughter, I made a promise. She would never wonder if she was wanted. She would never have to buy her own necessities while watching a sibling get handed everything. She would never need to install hidden cameras to protect herself in her own home. She would be loved equally, fairly, unconditionally. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. After all these years, my heart still skipped, wondering if it was them, but it was just spam. I deleted it and turned back to my daughter, my husband, my chosen family. The girl who'd saved every penny for Taylor Swift tickets was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply living well, surrounded by people who actually love you. And somewhere across town, in a house with changed locks and a mortgaged future, my birth family lived with the consequences of their choices. They'd lost their scapegoat, their punching bag, their convenient target. They'd lost me, and I'd found myself. The war was over. I'd won by refusing to fight anymore.